gripe I have, that's the case. But if you want to submit your pictures and you're watching us right here, right now, I'll kind of bring this back full screen again here for a moment. It's going to change back and forth while we do that. But you can download our app. It is free and available for all your different devices. When we are live, whether it's today, whether it's a live broadcast every day, we are live in the app. It's the first thing you see at the top, right? I'll tap it. There's my face. And then first thing you'll see once that loads up, taking its time. Oh, there we go. Is me, again, much smaller, talking about exactly what we're talking about here. It's right there at the top. Our live feed is always there. We have interactive radar. This will let you know when you're under different alerts and advisories. But if you scroll that down, there's a place where it says submit pictures. You tap that. Either take a picture right then and there, send one in. It'll let us see where it's at, and we'll show it to the folks at home as we continue to share those pictures. But we're so thankful that so many of you are doing that. And yeah, it certainly is helping us to tell this weather story. Also helping us to tell this, again, we have multiple people spread all around North Mississippi. Our meteorologist Maggie McCauley in Senatobia, again, looking at some of those icing pictures. That looks rough. I want to see that here in a second, but Gabe's outside, and so I'm going to be conscious of the fact that he's standing outside here for a moment. So I'm going to go to Gabe first, and then we'll come over there to you, Maggie. But our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, again, is we switch sides there. We've been kind of checking those surfaces, how they look as of now a 9:28. Are that starting to get a little worse?
More concerning, I will say, heading into the 9:30 hour. Things have transitioned. So earlier on, we were talking about it being colder than expected, and that kept some of the sleet around. Well, sleet was honestly what we were rooting for at this point, because it meant that the ground, it was still, crunchy and not exactly smooth, meaning it wasn't as slick. Well, now things have started to shift. I looked out the window of the room-to-room weather center here at the Maynor household, and what do you see down there? All of that is liquid. And so what that means for us here is that freezing rain is becoming more and more of a possibility, and starting to transition that into the forecast. And so as you see right there on the surface, it's not exactly as ideal. I was really enjoying coming out here and seeing the fact that it was white, because that meant that it was sleet on the ground. But I kept looking out here, it's like the white's receding. And sure enough, exactly what I thought was happening is happening. And we're starting to get the rain coming down, and these surfaces are going to freeze and gloss over as long as those temperatures remain as cold as they have been. So we either need it to warm up or need it to cool off. This whole in between is what's allowing that freezing rain to take place with the snow eater aloft. And so one of which we need to head one of those directions, and so far not exactly the case. So here in Lee County, I'm worried that we're starting to get that freezing rain potential, and that could potentially become hazardous heading into the afternoon. So things need to change before they get worse. But man, I'm getting worried looking at where things sit right now.
Well, I mean, and let's be clear, this is exactly what we expected would happen. But I mean, we are human beings as well. We've been hoping that maybe there's something we missed, because when you're talking about a forecast, there's so many elements, so many ways and things could go wrong, and just you're always hoping there's something we mixed. Appreciate that, Gabe. Again, looking out there in northern Lee County live. Again, we have people spread across North Mississippi. We have cameras that you can't see anywhere else on broadcast that we're showing you here, and that would be Pontotoc. Looking out there in Pontotoc County, as you can see, kind of the lines there in the roadway, travel becoming more treacherous, and there's a pretty decent band of some kind of sleet or ice that's moving through Pontotoc County as we speak. As we bring it back to Mama Justice Doppler radar, one of those heavier bands is kind of set up. And this is where we get concerned, where we get those localized enhancements. Somebody let the dog out, please. So one of those heavier ice bands there from Coffeyville, stretching up here toward Pontotoc. I know, unfortunately, we don't yet have a camera in Coffeyville. I really wish we did out there, or Water Valley. But this heavier band here is going to be one of those. Let's check and see if there's a bright banding on it, where when we change this over, if we're able to see. Yeah, see just a little bit of ice there. I think this is mainly probably freezing rain, and we could possibly also have a little bit of sleet that kind of mixes in with that as well. As we take it back to the standard mode here on Mississippi Live, Mama Justice Doppler radar. And the reason the freezing rain is so important, and we're going to bring Maggie in on this here, is just when you start looking at the way it happens, it falls, it starts dripping, and then then that.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Matt? This is sent in to us at 9:18, so last 10 minutes or so in Brewer. So this is south of
Brewers, that's
Tupelo.
South Lee County.
Yep, yep. So azaleas across the front of my house in Brewer is what Mandy Dowdy sent in. So yeah, it's
So
looking
that
like
looks
we do
like, as
have.
far as far as what that is, no, there's a couple things I take away on that graphic. Number one, obviously you can see the ice dripping off, the icicles. There are going to be icicles out there. Don't eat the
Yeah,
icicles. Just need to say that. Feel like we need to say that. You can see this is when we talked about the radial versus the horizontal icing, right? The flat surfaces like the leaves, that's somewhere around maybe 1/10 of an inch in ice, maybe a little bit more than 1/10 of an inch of ice already. But when you look at the branch itself, you don't see much icing on that. So
right.
one of our prayers on this is that the horizontal icing is ridiculous and you're locked in wherever you're at, but the radial icing is what brings down power lines and trees and things like that. But I will say trees in particular, when you start talking about leaves, you know, the trees that still have leaves like that, magnolias, are going to have some issues, you know, because
Yeah.
they're big, you know, leaves and lots of surface area on there. But that's what really starts weighing it down. Please do not spend time under trees today or tomorrow or the next day, because they're going to get weighed down. If you're like, whoa, that's so cool. Look, I can touch the branch. No, no, no. Please don't take that chance. They could be very, very dangerous. So the fact that that's Brewer down South Lee County is concerning, because if I bring it back here on Mama Justice Doppler radar, I can tell what that is, and that helps us understand what's going on here in Bruce. That was this, and I'll make this a slightly longer loop. We're going to make this a 2 hour loop here. And as we do so, you'll notice that is the band. So Brewer is right here, kind of between Shannon and Verona. The dog has decided to stand between my legs right now. Hi, buddy. Hope I'm not bugging you. Okay, clearly not. But this heavier band right there, that's the one that probably produced it, you know, right there, that kind of second batch, and there's another one upstream. So we're talking that one band there was probably about 1/10 of an inch of ice over a very short period of time. And these are not convective. Convective is a word that we use. It describes, you know, it's a scientific word for a type of way in which energy is transferred. And convective systems, what we most often call thunderstorms, are possible with this, where you get even more enhanced localized amounts of what starts off as probably thunder snow aloft and melts into something else close to the surface. So if that's producing that there, I can pretty safely say that this band that's moving here through Coffeyville and south of Charleston right now, that one little section there, when that moves up here to Algoma and back up toward Tupelo and Verona, that's going to produce another 1/10 of an inch of ice. And just boom, boom, boom. That's how this all adds up. The current time is 9:35. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our folks here. We've talked to some emergency managers around the area, trying to get a hold of, you know, some of what they are seeing. We're going to try to get in contact with a few more of those, but this icing situation, unfortunately, is continuing to unfold and continuing to get worse. One thing I do want to show, we started showing this, we didn't go all the way through event. We do have new data coming in where we can show the icefall accumulations using our HRRR model here through the end of this event. So let's look at it, and you're going to see it same time I have. Now, first thing you'll notice on this is that the positioning, I think, is a little off. We're going to adjust this accordingly. But this is already showing some of the icing predicted by this particular model between 6 a.m. when it starts and 10:30 a.m. So that's why, you know, we're starting at 10:30 and already has icefall accumulations. That's talking about, you know, that, partially about the what has already sort of occurred. And in fact, this already has an offset on this. So I don't know that I agree. I think I agree more with where our offset had this before, where, again, that gets our 1/10 of an inch we have out here in the Tupelo area. New Albany, I'm not sure that we've had quite as much as that 4/10 that's showing, but we've already had, obviously, some decent icing there. I'm going to slide it to where we can try to do a better job of, I'll get out of the way, so we can get Greenville, Belzona, get you folks in the Delta on top on this as well. But you can see, again, heavy icing between now and 5 p.m., If I were to look right in the center of this darkest pink there, that would be more than an inch of ice occurring. Hopefully it's that horizontal versus that radial ice. Radial being, if you think about like this, if you think about, hey, you know how you have something round like this, a radius, when you learn this in geometry, or maybe just basic math, the radius is the distance between the middle of the circle and the outside of the circle. So radial icing is a layer that goes around power lines, goes around tree branches, anything, essentially with a radius there. And radial icing is more difficult than flat horizontal icing. So not all of this is going to be adding an inch of ice to all of those different surfaces. Some of this is going to be adding a lesser amount of that. But at about 1/2 inch of ice, as we talked to the folks with the Tom Bigby Electric Power Cooperative, we talked to them a couple nights ago about it. 1/2 inch of ice is where things really start to get dicey. And you can't see more than a few of us will probably have more than that between now and supper time this evening. And then the icing continues into tomorrow and into tomorrow morning. And on kind of the latest update here, and again, we're into the event. We're already starting to add icing. And I don't necessarily agree with this, so I think my adjustment, I have to adjust back. I'm going to adjust this back to the west a little bit as we're trying to kind of trying to figure out the exact spot there. As you can see how much of a difference this can make. As I make just a little bit of an adjustment there, you can see the numbers update in real time, and wherever that peak line is, for example, see New Albany, where it says in addition to what we've seen, another 2 inches are possible, but you adjust that just a little bit and you can see how that drops by a 1/2 inch. So they're going to be localized areas, again, in our peak impact zone that are going to be pretty significant as far as icing is concerned, and that's where the possibilities of power outages and everything else that we're tracking could potentially come in with this system. So impacts remain the same, and unfortunately, we're at the very, very beginning of something more significant. You can join the conversation. I know Gabe and Maggie are watching that conversation behind the scenes, looking for some of your questions. We'll try to answer some of those coming up here in a few minutes as well. But we're high end on our sleet and ice accumulations, as well as possible thunderstorm potential to have additional enhancements on the east side of our icing for tomorrow morning in particular and overnight. Travel impacts are already occurring and will continue to worsen as sub-freezing temperatures are going to continue to stress the power grid, and power disruptions both from icing and from overuse of the grid are both going to be tricky. I know Maggie's trying to get someone on the phone there here in a moment, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you up to show that camera that you're looking at as well, because those travel conditions continue to get rough. And Gabe, that's something you can also look at, I think, behind the scenes there as well. But the travel conditions, obviously, getting, as we kind of do some other MDOT cams, Gabe, here in a second. But yeah, we're looking rough there. Where's that at?
Yeah, this is
That's
in
Oxford.
Lafayette County, Oxford at looking at 6th and Jackson Avenue. So yeah, not great out there. Even seeing that kind of blurry and kind of has paused on me. Might be a little bit icy over there, but overall that was just live. But you can see this MDOT traffic camera. Can't even see the lines on the roadways in the city of Oxford. It's trying to refresh there for you. That car no longer there, but you can still see again the roadways looking very slick out there this morning. And that's just to show you how fast this can come about, because we've been watching these traffic cameras in Oxford, and every time I click back on them, they look worse and worse. And again, we're trying to get a hold of a few different emergency management directors across our counties, just so we can get a full update of what the roadways and everything's looking like, even outside of these traffic cameras here on these MDOT traffic cameras. Take a look at this bridge too, at 7th and University. Just not great at all. And we want you to stay off the roadways, but especially stay off bridges. If you have to get out and about, we know there are different people that have to go to work today. We just encourage you to take it very, very slow. Slick overpasses are already ongoing across a lot of the area, and that's just going to continue through the day. So that's a look over in Oxford.
Appreciate that, Maggie. Gabe is looking at another camera there. And again, these cameras continue to show a similar story here. And that story, unfortunately, is eroding, but that is exactly what we expected, right?
Exactly. And I wanted to pick I realize my mic is not attached, but I wanted to pick a location that's further up towards the northwest where they were getting some of this accumulation earlier on. And this is in DeSoto County, where close to the Horn Lake area. And here you're getting a look at some of those roadways. and this is going to be US 51. And take a look at the blanket. The blanket of ice, the blanket of snow, the blanket of sleet, whatever you want to call it, is very impactful, and you can't even see the roadways underneath it. Usually you see divots of some tire tracks, and even that's almost impossible to find. And of course, you do have those travelers that are braving the storm. Don't recommend that, but they are traveling at least slowly, and that's one positive I will say with this, but they don't need to be driving at all. This is up close to the Memphis area, so they're seeing a little bit worse than what folks out towards the east and even southeast are seeing. But Matt, I will say that this is not out of the realm of possibilities, but at least in Horn Lake, they're getting more snow, and that's positive for them. But our forecast, more ice than anything, and so I don't think we're going to get that beautiful.
Snow, or is that just a heavy sleet?
Well, they have gotten flakes that have crossed the state line. So there's at least a few flakes mixed in there, maybe up to about a half inch to an inch. More than us, of course.
Yeah. Actually, more than a lot of us. We might check. Can you get NWS chat on there? Where is that on your computer there, where you can kind of check behind the scenes?
I have it on my phone.
You have it on your phone? Okay, yeah, we'll check in there just to kind of see any information on that we have. I appreciate that. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynard there again, monitoring what is obviously a slick situation, some power disruptions already there near the Tennessee state line related to this. In fact, if we check, and this tends to lag a little bit, reality, but we check power disruptions. Again, they're starting to come a few more of those up here closer to South Haven in DeSoto County. As we talked about earlier, this is where, again, it has been some of the heaviest so far, about 1,000 folks estimated there in DeSoto County, and looking at close to 300 folks there around Shelby and Cleveland and Rossdale. So we're hoping that those aren't continuing to increase. As far as power outages across the country go, where this was icing a lot earlier, you could see back out there into East Texas, the DFW metro area. That's where the icing has been more significant so far, because they started earlier, and lots of those alerts. I'm going to show up here. We'll show the different warnings and watches that we have in place. Again, winter storm warnings all throughout Texas and Oklahoma, Arkansas, and northwest Mississippi. Again, that's where, again, more sleet and even some of that snowfall. That's part of the reason northwest Mississippi, DeSoto County, is under that winter storm warning, because it's kind of a combination more of that. Whereas we are, unfortunately, more exclusively ice storm Pontotoc, Lee, Union, Alcorn. I could list a whole lot of other counties. Shouldn't have started listing them. But ultimately, that's what most of us are going to see. And then a narrow band, if you notice very quickly there, a narrow band of these kind of purple counties just kind of dotted in. This is still the unknown. Could Noxubee County avoid all wintry precipitation? That remains a possibility. Maybe not a likelihood there. But you're under a winter weather advisory. Same thing down there toward Neshoba County. And in our area, Lamar and Marion counties, in that we're hoping for the best. Not that we're not all hoping for the best, but perhaps things end up better for some folks there in some of those counties that I was referencing. You do continue to send in your reports, and we're very thankful about that. And those reports from all around the area, some coming in from Water Valley. And I like this one. I'm not going to do a ton of these, but Hoveth Johnson there sending in this. Is the family doing what we're hoping you do? Having some cinnamon rolls. I mean, just kind of eating, hanging out, and trying to make the best on being stuck inside with people. I mean, that's what this is about. This is going to be memorable for a lot of folks. Hopefully not because Matt and the guys and gals, were completely wrong. Actually, I want to tell you right now, nothing would make me happier than getting massive amounts of "you messed this up" emails on Monday, because that would mean your email's still working and your phone's still working and you still have power and you still have heat. So listen, while I like to be right, I would rather be wrong and everybody still have power and everything still be okay. And it's like, Matt, but one way or another, we're making memories this weekend. We're going to spend some time with some family. Hopefully we can make the best of it. And hopefully we can enjoy one another's company during this. Again, appreciate everybody for liking, subscribing. You can get the app. That's how you can submit your pictures, and does let us know kind of where we're talking about as far as other pictures in Yalobusha County are concerned. Your boats landing there. This about an hour ago, showing in the ground completely coated with some sleet and or ice and or snow mix potentially there. So Yalobusha County, that's what we're seeing. Up here, Panola County, not as much. This one in Pope, Brandy sending this picture in, again, of whatever that sleet is, that ice combination covering the ground. Man, that's a tree we'll be watching closely. That's got a lot of limbs with a lot of stuff, and I'm hoping we don't lose some branches on that as the freezing rain component of this comes in. We've had more sleet than expected so far, and dear God, let that continue. That would be kind of best case scenario. As we check Pontotoc County near Algoma, again along Highway 15, southern part of the county, that does look like some elevated surfaces there with some ice, as well as in this case here, again, a windshield on the car, that coat of ice, that combination of kind of a wet sleet causing some of the issues there. And Maggie also, again, looking at some reports that continue to come in. Again, you can send your reports in on social media. You can also post them on my wall. Maggie, where are we looking at there for that at that's 9:47 a.m.?
Take a look at this. This is over in Boonville, so over in Prentice County, 9:31. So one of our most recent submissions by Heather, again, over in Boonville. And I don't know if you can see this. You probably can if I'm on a bigger screen here with you. I tried to zoom in, but it didn't look as prevalent as it does when it's zoomed out. You can kind of see those little pellets indicating sleet over in Boonville. And that's just what Matt was saying as well. We've gotten more sleet this morning. And again, we hope that continues, because as though sleet is very good with travel disruptions, with roadways being impacted, not necessarily indicating a power outage situation. When you're getting sleet and then freezing rain, that's when we see power lines down and things of that nature, which we are seeing some of up in South Haven, but we'd rather have a lot more of this, which is picture of some sleet over in Boonville. As always, keep sending in your pictures to us within our app, and we are going to continue to show those all morning long. We'd like to see what's going on in your backyard, and the best way to do that is for you guys, again, just to send us a picture. Hey, this is what it's looking like. You can do that right there in the app. Of course, we're watching socials as well, Matt, and we'll be watching those all the way through the weekend as we just continue to keep our eye on things. But I wanted to show
Absolutely.
that picture. Yep.
I appreciate that. I'm going to show some other more recent ones as well, as opposed to just map mode. Our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, kind of pulling those up there as well. You can kind of see, again, where the ice and snow is on a broader scale. I went to the national map to show you that, again, for some folks out there, I know it's, we live in a see it when I believe it culture. And so looking at this, hopefully this is the believe it and see it. This is heavy rainfall was back here in the Texas. And then this is a big mass of ice and heavier precipitation. And where is it headed? I mean, do you need a meteorology degree to figure this out? Heading this way. Hopefully we warm up before it gets here a little bit. I'm hoping the dry air here is a sign of that warm up that we're expecting to start coming in for locations around the Golden Triangle. But you might notice those exact spots I'm showing there with that national radar. I want you to look at where we've had the most significant power disruptions. And notice it's the same locations. And it's as that goes over that those impacts kind of reach their peak. So here's current power outages. And then here is current national radar. Do you see a correlation? This clearly, at least there, and things will change as it approaches, but this clearly, at least back there in Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas, is one that's causing power disruptions. And it's very possible that that one produces heavy icing once it moves into our area. And this is where the roulette, which side of the freezing line you're on, starts to pay dividends. If you're lucky enough to be on the warm side, great. If you're not, things go sideways quickly. As we look at some of your pictures, again, some of the latest pictures coming in, so rather than just showing them based on location, we can also show them based on how recent they are. So these coming in the last few minutes. This one coming from downtown Ripley, again, showing what is ice-covered roadways and clearly travel that we would highly discourage. Another one from Ripley, this coming from John Grisham. Appreciate John for sharing it. This one a little bit more clear there. And yeah, you can see some indentation in the road there where cars have traveled along the roads. But certainly icy roads will continue to be a huge factor in one form or fashion. I do wonder, going back to what Gabe was saying a minute ago, that one area right in the middle there does look just a little bit more indented, whether that's, snow, sleet, or just kind of a heavy sleet that they have seen but certainly covering the roads. I have an idea on this. We need to come back over to Mama Justice Doppler radar. I'm going to try not to do that, as I have a brainwave, as one of my favorite television presenters, Jeremy Clarkson, not an appropriate guy, but, anyway, he says, I had a brainwave. Well, I just had a brainwave. That Ripley area, we've been up here in this kind of heavier band for a while. And at one point there, within the last hour or so, we had that bright banding we were talking about, right? I don't know if it, yeah, there we go. For that one scan, let's see if I find it right there, near Corinth. Excuse me. So this brighter band there, what current time is 9:52, almost an hour ago there, as that kind of moved through, the heavier sleet with this as it moved through, that probably was accumulating sleet there in that. So when we kind of go back over here to our regular precipitation mode, you can see how that kind of shows up with more of the yellows. That's kind of what we're talking about as far as that is concerned. Take it back over to the mixed mode, like we've been watching. But join the conversation, ongoing again here on Facebook, on YouTube. Again, checking some of your questions here. Do not rely on ChatGPT for technical info. It gets confused fast. The thing that drives me the most crazy, and I use ChatGPT at least an hour a day, maybe more than that. And whether it's better than just Googling or not, sometimes I really wonder on technical things. But the thing that drives me the most crazy, it's like, you're absolutely right. You would be right to think as much. But just tell me I'm wrong so I can get on the right track. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox on that there. And we're out to our camera in Lafayette County. And Lafayette County, we talked to the emergency manager there a little bit earlier on. More icing continuing on the lens there. And 23 degrees the temperature as that's occurring. So this is all falling as some kind of frozen something, whether it's sleet covered in freezing rain or just plain sleet. It is frozen there in the Oxford area. But as we're watching the warm air trying to charge northward, we're right at the freezing point in Columbus. And that is up a little bit. So as the temperature increases there, or increases down here in the Macon area, as we're kind of checking out some of those cameras, we're 37 in Macon. So this is that warmer air trying to work northward. And this is something our meteorologist Gabe Maynor has been kind of tracking. He's been looking at that. He's been looking at the road temperatures and looking at the road conditions. He'll have an updated look at all three of those in a minute. But before we talk to Gabe, I do want to go up to Maggie. I saw those power outages. She has some specific information on that. She's also kind of checking, and I don't mind if we pop back and forth between those cameras there, Maggie, as we're talking about this. But I know you're kind of trying to check out all those cameras, trying to just see road conditions up there in DeSoto County. Unfortunately, a lot of those cameras are going out because power outages, right?
No, exactly. I was just making sure that was still correct, kind of getting a few views on that to make sure we're bringing you accurate information. Again, the camera view on State Line Road, currently unavailable because up on State Line Road between, again, this is in DeSoto County, but it's right under the state line of Tennessee and Mississippi. We are seeing outages, and I'm checking on socials. And here's the thing. We're looking at outages in DeSoto County, right? And this is up in South Haven. This is all the way up into South State Line Road, Rasco Road, where a lot of different neighborhoods are, up into State Line Road where there's more businesses, over 1,000 people impacted. What I'm looking at on social media, there was a power line down, but the potential of that was because somebody hit the power line, not because of necessarily we're seeing enough ice accumulation just yet to be bringing down power lines. That means, again, I know people have to get out on the roadway, but we just encourage you, don't get out if you don't have to, because it sometimes leads to unnecessary outages like this one where people are already out. Again, not saying this is it, just saying that was a comment on social media. Haven't really confirmed that just yet, but the potential is there for some outages to already occur because, again, not ice accumulation, but people getting out on the roadways and it being slick and things like that happening. So that's why we encourage you, don't get out if you don't have to. That is a specific area within North Mississippi that's dealing with outages. And again, those MDOT traffic cameras up there out. But if we go just over on 55, just off to the west, seeing at least one of them trying to work, but conditions still not looking great, like this one over. Again, this is further into State Line Road, more sitting off west where there is still power. And overall, you can see, if you look here, Matt, way off in the distance, there are some people coming, but they're traveling quite slow as they should be.
You know, a lot of the questions in the chat I saw while you were talking is like, can I do this yet? Can I do that yet? We highly discourage you from traveling. Some of the roads are still going to be okay for a little while. Others are really bad. And the problem is you're probably out there and you're probably sliding when you realize I should have stayed home. We have been talking about this since Monday and talking way harder than we typically do at that time frame out. So all of that to say, we've had some time to prep and prepare, and hopefully that's exactly what we have done. But temperatures, they're cold enough. We are watching a little bit of a warm surge. That's one of the things our meteorologist Gabe Maynor is looking at as well here, as he is kind of analyzing some of the current temperatures and a few other maps there that we're talking about. And we'll bring Gabe in here for a second. Gabe and a friend. Certainly trying to keep the pets warm. Well, I guess one of the main factors to think about.
Well, Matt, that was exactly where I was going. Yes, I have a special guest with me. This is our dog Bailey, and as you can see, he is bundled up and put on his Christmas sweater because it's never too late to have a Christmas sweater. But the reason why we did it is because he's shaking. He's cold. And honestly, he's inside, so he shouldn't be shaking, but he's okay. It's probably because I'm holding him, so I'll set him down. But nonetheless, we need to be preparing our pets, our pipes, people, and plants if they're still alive. But nonetheless, make sure to take care of those things as we get into this event, because temperature-wise right now, we're still in the teens in northwest Mississippi. Here in Tupelo, sitting around 24 degrees, and with the weather outside, it makes it feel so much worse with the stuff coming down, the winds as well. So, there's a lot of things that we just need to prepare for. Extreme cold moving into the extended forecast, so get those pipes ready now. Cover them up. You mentioned the towel method if they were too late to get those absolute restoration covers. But just different things that we still need to prepare for, because like you mentioned, this event is just getting started.
Okay, we'll talk more about that here in a minute. We're going to take a brief break, support those sponsors that support us here on Mississippi Live Weather so we can keep doing this. Otherwise, that's why they advertise. They want to try to get your eyeballs. They want to try to talk to you. They do want to support us, but money speaks. And so support those that support us. We're going to take a brief break, show some advertiser response, and we're going to kind of restart things here at 10 a.m. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. We'll be right back after this.
Game day brings its ups and downs, celebration and disappointment, anxiety and relief, friends and enemies. You can always argue over who should have won, but everyone can agree on great food. Appetizers, entrees, drinks, party platters, or even the taste of sweet victory. There's something for every season at Eat With Us restaurants.
Good morning. It's just after 10 a.m. You are watching Mississippi Live Weather here in the Room to Room Weather Center as we are tracking the ice storm of 2026. We do anticipate we will continue to have some issues related to this going forward as we progress throughout the remainder of today and into, of course, the next couple of days. We do have team coverage here of this icing event across North Mississippi. I am in central Lee County here as I've got to make sure I'm clicked in the right box for a moment here. I'm in central Lee County. Our Gabe Maynor's in northern Lee County. He's been watching power outages and all the conditions around the state. Our Maggie McCauley has been really on top of traffic cameras. And just for trying to get some real on-the-ground idea of what's actually happening, we have our Caleb Edelblut in the Golden Triangle, trying to have this covered from all angles. We are not traveling. We are staying put, because we believe that's what you should be doing as well, and we should try to model what that looks like in this situation here. I'm going to begin with our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, as we have multiple times this morning. She has traffic conditions around the state, and certainly, Maggie, the northwest portion of the state is where the travel troubles have been the most significant. Almost all the roads are packed like that, and luckily, in many cases, there aren't a lot of folks out on them.
Yeah, hey, here's a look of what we haven't seen this morning, or a location that we haven't mentioned so far this morning. You see one truck out there. That's the first one I've seen. I've had this camera pulled up for a few minutes. It's NDOT traffic look over in Olive Branch, so a little bit less traffic than the 55 interstate that I have been showing you over in DeSoto County. But you barely can see those roadways over here. Here's another look over at a bridge over there, and you can see can't see the lines. You can see kind of a middle indention where people have been traveling out there this morning. But overall, look at that. That is not something that we want to be getting out in this morning. This is in Northwest Mississippi. So that's the look overall if you're having to get out and about. And if you don't want to, because that's what it's looking like. And again, we've already seen a few wrecks as well. One of those was on 22, close to the Myrtle exit. Now taking a look at that, looking like traffic might be flowing back ever so slowly on 22. This was after the Myrtle exit, but still seeing folks able to pass that. And again, you can see those lines of indention where people have been traveling out there this morning, going ever so slowly. Still seeing vehicles on the roadways. Again, we hope that that's essential workers that have to get out and about because these roadways aren't great. That's why we've already seen traffic incidents already this morning. And then the further south that you go, do want to show you one more look, a little bit closer into where Matt and Gabe are. It's up in Saltillo. Not necessarily seeing those whiteout conditions, but that doesn't mean we're not seeing icy roadways just yet. Right, Matt?
Yeah, we're not seeing it just yet, but I mean, there's a difference between when it's visibly icy and when it's slick. It can be slick in scenarios when it's not obviously visibly icy out there, and that could be the situation. The problem is that you realize that as you're applying your brakes, and now you can't stop. Again, join the conversation here as we are discussing what's going on around the area. You know, folks mentioned Mississippi Highway 4 northwest of Hobo Station is slick. People still driving. Go home, y'all. That is the recommendation. That's why we have someone at home this morning. That'd be our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, who is in Oktibbeha County at home. You know, I would say sheltering in place, but you're not as prone to high-end ice as other folks are. And frankly, you haven't really seen much so far. What are you seeing now as of 10:04 a.m.?
Well, right now, still a whole lot of nothing, which is a good thing for us here in the Golden Triangle region. I will say, unfortunately, South Montgomery has gone back to its busier self and still seeing cars kind of go back and forth. But on the bride with them on the road, there's nothing happening here. But we also know that it just takes a lot longer to get to us because it's more kind of northwest in our state with where that ice storm is kind of more prominent right now in that peak threat and that threshold. But we're staying pretty dry for right now. But I just know that we do have a soggy forecast coming up later on today, and then that can cause some implications overnight, especially once those temperatures begin to drop. But for right now, we're still seeing dry conditions, but also frigid conditions. I know that's going to continue to worsen as we get ready for the days coming up ahead, but definitely kind of preparing for the worst, expecting the best. I mean, I even have the wipers up on my cars out here. Didn't park it next to the tree, so put them up on both my car and my dad's. So making sure we have the necessary precautions out here in the Golden Triangle region, but also hoping for the best as we continue pushing further into our Saturday, but also knowing that it's going to be kind of rainy a lot later today. Isn't that right, Matt?
Yeah, it will, and we're hoping it goes over to pure rainfall there. The temperatures in around Oktibbeha County right now are within a couple degrees of the freezing point. We do expect them to probably end up going up a little bit more as we go throughout the day, and hopefully that transitions to where we're confident on it being above freezing there. That won't be everybody, but for some of us, we do see that temperature go up a little bit more. We're in Ackerman right now, sitting at 32 degrees. Again, dry air is still the story there. I show the dew point coming in 25, and so that's still a pretty good gap. We have not had as heavy precipitation moving into the Ackerman area at this time. Again, appreciate North Mississippi Storm Chasers, our partner there. You can see Ackerman kind of in the hole as far as this is concerned. But back toward Chula, another pretty decent band. But maybe if it takes just long enough, it'll maybe we can get that temperature up a little bit higher. That's our hope, our prayer there for folks around Kosciuszko and back for a large chunk of the area. We'll check in with our meteorologist Gabe Maynor on looking at all of the advisories for around our region as well, coming up here in just a moment. So the latest on those advisories in place, frankly, from the government. But one thing that's very clear on this to me This is a pretty substantial ice band from here, from Cleveland back up the Water Valley and the Oxford area. As we bring Gabe in, Gabe, there's no question on this. We're still at the beginning of an extended event.
Matt, making the forecast, one of the things that I always like to do as a meteorologist is assess where things stood with model runs yesterday. And the big thing with the forecast was it was almost scattered development on the first half of the day. And I remember watching it, it's like, okay, well, if this is the event, we're going to see some accumulation, but it's not going to be extreme. Then the main event rolled in, widespread development. And we're talking freezing rain, sleet, and maybe some rain mixing in further south. That's going to be the more significant coverage. That's going to be where those outputs jump significantly, and that's where we expect those highest impacts to be felt. That's going to be pushing in later on into the afternoon. So this morning threat, basically getting the foundation, not in a good way. We always talk about a firm foundation in Christ, but yeah, this isn't one of those. We're talking about a foundation of ice, Christ. And so that's going to allow for that accumulation later on in the day to just basically build and not have to cool off the ground at all because it's already cold enough. And then those start to climb as well. And that's why we do have these ice storm warnings in effect from far southwest into the delta around Greenville, and then working its way south northeast all the way up into Tishomingo County. And so that's where we're experiencing those ice storm warnings, accumulation totals surpassing an inch. Not going to be shocked at all if we reach that point in a lot of locations. So this is something that we were talking about yesterday, where those accumulation totals could be on the more significant side. We're hopeful that continues to, we hope we're wrong. We hope we're wrong, and that's what I'll say on that. One of the notes that I do have is our power outage not forecast, but power outage totals. Maggie was touching on it just a moment ago. DeSoto County having over 1,000 outages. That was due to a wreck that was getting confirmed there through some of our sources on social media. But one thing that I will say is Bolivar County did earlier on have a significant number of outages, sitting at 103 right now. Now that was due to some of these icy conditions. That was actually some weather-related impacts of why those outages occurred. DeSoto County, of course, weather-related why it's out, but more so from a wreck rather than the ice or snow or any of that frozen precipitation bringing down those power lines or any limbs that would knock down power lines. So fortunately, I have not seen numerous reports of that so far, but we're not in the thick of it just yet. This afternoon, Matt, that's when things really start to heighten up. Everything that we're getting right now is just setting that foundation for what should be a more active afternoon ahead.
Absolutely will be a more active afternoon ahead. That's our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, reporting. Appreciate that, Gabe. And again, we have a fairly significant ice band that has set up, stretching from Grenada back to Coffeyville. If you look at this over the last hour or so, and there's a couple ways to look at this. If you know some folks out there that do live kind of in this zone and they haven't submitted pictures yet, go ahead and send those in because I'm interested to see, very, very interested to see how much icing this is producing here in this zone, stretching from Pontotoc back over here to north of the Greenwood area, because this is fairly heavy. And that's where we get, there will be a band where significant icing ends up occurring. I want to show a picture here. This coming from the Dorsey area using the Mississippi Live Weather app. Give me a moment. This is going to pop off the screen while I get the name on that for a second, and appreciate that would be Scotty Massey, who's followed us since back at the TV station days of some of the icicles. That tells you the rain hits it and it sort of drips as it takes it a moment to freeze, because freezing rain is not this instantaneous process. It takes a few moments before it can have its effect. So again, I think we've shown this a bunch. We are going to show this a bunch here, talking about kind of what's on the menu for today. Rain down where Caleb is, though a lot of dry air is kind of eating that up at this point. The more moisture is mainly north. We have the freezing rain that's starting off as snow, largely melts completely in the rain, and it hits the ground as a liquid. That's the thing. That's why it's not frozen rain. It's freezing rain. So it hits the ground as a liquid because it hasn't had a long enough time to change phase back to ice. And as it hits something, it freezes. Now, we say instantaneously. That's actually not true. It takes between moments to seconds to maybe a minute to freeze. And that's how you end up getting the form where you have these drips, is because it hits it as rain and then the raindrop kind of goes down whatever's already frozen there and extends it a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, which is why at the very bottom's there, if you zoom in, I'll see if I get my mouse over on the right screen here for a second. You zoom in on this, I mean, you can almost literally see where it froze more quickly up, higher up on some of these, and then versus where it's still more liquid and dripping off. So in a freezing rain situation, you would actually still see rain dripping off the ends of these icicles here. And that's why it kind of looks a little bigger at the bottom there as well, because that's the raindrop kind of accumulating the moisture before it drips then off. So it is not frozen rain, it is freezing rain, and unfortunately it is occurring in many locations. And you are doing an excellent job of giving us information. We know that the National Weather Service had a tendency to watch what we're doing here. Appreciate National Weather Service in Memphis and all those other places. I'm going to map this one here, figure out where this one at. This cluster of reports coming in there from kind of eastern Pontotoc County. And we'll come back over here to the gallery. Let's look at this and some of the shots here. This from Janice, I think it said there. Again, completely coded on this. I'm very interested in Pontotoc County because in Pontotoc County, we have one of those heavier bands, and whatever that's setting up with, that looks like that is some sleet. But that would be best case scenario, that maybe we have just enough cold air near the surface that we're getting sleet. And yeah, Gabe's microphone, the one he has clipped on, isn't working, but we at least can hear him. I got to tell you, things aren't going to be perfect than what you see here today, but hopefully they're informative. That is our goal here, to make sure we're giving the information. And listen, none of this existed a year ago, so we're doing all right. Join the conversation. Of course, support our sponsors here. Mama Justice, one of our big sponsors, sponsoring our Doppler radar. One of our biggest sponsors from day zero was Room to Room Furniture, for helping us out. We appreciate, folks like Mitchell Cunningham there. And they have done something that I think will be helpful to them from an advertising standpoint and to all of us as well. They're sponsoring one of our sky cams here. And we have a number of sky cams, more than 20 sky cams here across North Mississippi that we are going to be utilizing through this event to figure out what's happening. It's 25 in Tupelo. And at the bottom of the screen there, I'm looking at a parking lot that looks wet, but I see some folks out there. The thing is that the ground temperatures are flirting with the freezing point, if not a little below. Can you travel? I mean, you can do anything. I always tell the kids, you can do anything once. You want to jump off a bridge, you can do it once, not doing it again. So can you drive from point A to point B? You can. But will you get there safely, and will you get back safely? That is the question, because so many of the roads look like what Maggie has right now on one of our Mississippi Department of Transportation cameras. Now, Maggie's looking at, again, these frozen roadways. Where's that one as of 10:14 a.m.?
Yeah, I want to show you something different, or at least somewhere different. We've been kind of highlighting some of the same areas that have been getting the most impacts, at least this morning. This is a little bit further off to the south, over in the Delta, Swiftwater, south of Greenville this morning, looking at 82. You can see that bridges, those overpasses, not looking great this morning. Overall, still people, though, out on the roadways. You can see this indention made where people have been traveling on this roadway into the overpass. You can see someone coming right now. Still slick conditions, though, down in the Delta, even though they're not seeing as maybe whiteout conditions on the roadways as we are further up to the north. Doesn't mean things aren't very, very slick. And you can see that 18-wheeler making its way out as well. Just need to be very, very careful if you have to be out and about this morning. And again, we can't encourage you more enough to just not, if you do not have to. But I want to show you a different look, because again, that's over in the Delta. Haven't talked about it too much, but it was one of those places that got in on that wintry mix before everybody else overnight. Again, this poured over the Mississippi River into the Delta, into Northwest Mississippi, anywhere between 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. for some of us last night. So getting in on that a little bit earlier than everybody else, now continuing to make its way through Northeast Mississippi. So even if your roadways aren't looking like this morning, doesn't mean you're not going to round out your day looking like this as well. So that's why we encourage you, if you see your roadway and it looks okay right now, I don't encourage you to be like, oh, it's fine, I'll go to my friend's house, because these conditions can happen rather quickly and you don't want to be stuck in a place you don't want to be overnight. Matt.
Absolutely. That's our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, reporting. Some of your reports, again, I'm about to send one over here to the National Weather Service here in just a second. Let's bring it back in here, and I'm going to change this over to our browser. This is a very helpful report in a number of ways. Number one, it shows us with absolute accuracy exactly how much sleet we have had in some locations. And so this shows us, give me a moment here, I'll see if it pastes into my chat with the National Weather Service. I'll put 1 inch sleet in Myrtle. M-Y-R. Hold on, I'm going to send that before it goes. There we are. 1 inch sleet, well, E-E-T in M-Y-R-T-L-E. M-Y-R-T-L-E. Still didn't get it. Y'all, of all the things I can't do, spell? Anyway, this is an excellent idea of what's going on. So if you have accumulations on the ground, if you could put a ruler in it, that allows us to understand exactly how much has fallen. And that gives us an excellent idea of exactly what's going on. We know that's primarily sleet up there in the Myrtle area. And I'll go back and appreciate, I'll get the name on that one more time here, Kenny Stansel. Seen that name a bunch of times over the years. Appreciate you for working with us here on Mississippi Live Weather. Jason with a shot here. I'm going to map this one, get an idea. He's sending a cluster of reports. This from the Iuka area. Let's see if we can kind of pull those back up. And again, these all shots here of some of the roads in the Iuka area, which are sleet packed. I can now say for sure, having seen up close Kenny's picture a moment ago, that these are sleet packed roadways. And that's the reason why you see the indentions there. About an inch of sleet already. Now, that's not the same as the inch of ice we're talking about. When we talk about an inch of ice, it's yes, to a certain extent sleet, but mostly we're talking about the freezing rain. And that's why it's just so high impact. If we can just keep it sleet there up in Iuka, something has gone super right for you. The concern is if we have more of that freezing rain, maybe you're lucky enough, that cold layer is just deep enough to avoid the worst of it there. Man, that would be a spectacular thing if that were the case. And so going back to our graphic here, which kind of explains what we're looking at with this. And again, sleet is where it's a deeper cold layer. And so one of the pieces of information we talked about at 6 o'clock last night and 10 o'clock last night is information coming out of Oklahoma was saying that, doing soundings, the cold layer was a little deeper. We talked about how that could potentially impact the quantity of sleet. Man, that would be best case scenario, because any of these, rain, sleet, snow, is better than this. You can't travel when it's sleet, but you still have power. If we can avoid freezing rain, and I don't think we will for all locations, but if more locations can, that's your best case scenario, because it will be ice of some form for a lot of us. But if that cold layer is just deep enough, if it's more sleet, that would avoid those catastrophic power loss issues and some of the other things that we've talked about. Again, we haven't talked a ton about locations out here toward Red Bay and Vina and Russellville. And honestly, I haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about Tishmingo up here as well, or Belmont or Iuka. So I apologize for that. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here. It's 10:20 a.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. Again, widespread sleet and frozen precipitation continues here for locations in and around the northern part of Mississippi and northwest Alabama. And we can say that a lot of what we're looking at here is sleet. Another way to kind of check that out, and we're going to pull up on the map here, see what other reports we kind of have up there in and around locations in Tishmingo County. We've got some up here dating back. This one's about an hour, so we'll look at that in a moment. I want to bring it back to Gabe while I try to get some things aligned with that. And Gabe, again, you're watching alerts, you're watching other things. What do you have for us?
Well, so we have a blanket of alerts in place right now, and so it's almost impossible to keep up with them all as we head into this weekend and early parts of next week. But I want to talk about an upgrade that Memphis has put out, and they have upgraded our cold weather watch to now a cold weather warning, meaning that those wind chill values they're expecting along the for parts of the Tennessee state line here in North Mississippi to drop into the potential negatives for feels like values. So one of the concerns with this winter weather threat is lingering into that extended forecast. And as long as that cold weather is in place, I mean, it's not going to go anywhere. So with the cold weather warning going to be in place for all areas in the Memphis coverage area, then we do expect that stuff to linger as long as that cold weather is sticking around. And that is expected to go all the way into Tuesday and even beyond that point. Our high temperatures next week, 39 degrees, I believe is what it was sitting at. So we don't warm up too much. And then we get a potential next system next week, but that's a whole other thing we'll get to later on. But Matt, the cold weather warnings now in effect, just furthering what we've been saying, that extreme dangerous cold next week is possible to add to the already dangerous forecast we're in.
You're absolutely right. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, there, again, looking at the overall alert, says we're just kind of balancing a whole bunch of different things at this point here. Let's talk about pictures, not just from a standpoint of, ooh, that's neat, but from how we can prep more from this. I'm going to show you some pictures we got in from Tallahatchie County. This would be Charleston area. Former local TV station alum Joel Young's hometown out there. We have 8 pictures coming in from the hospital there. And what I note on all of these, it's kind of small. Hold on. I might have, let's see if I can do this without breaking it. That zoom in right. That's close enough you can kind of see it, because I kind of want to go through some of these. But if you note there, that is ice. And what is largely purely freezing rain that has kind of fallen there in the Charleston area. Appreciate Mandy for these pictures. I'll pop one of these up full in a second, but I just kind of want to see which one's best, honestly, as I'm going around this list here. That one's a pretty good example of, again, the freezing rain coming off of that image there, that surface there, and kind of dripping around. This is kind of sleet and freezing rain both at the same time. These images coming in over the last little bit here. So that is important, because as we go back to Mama Justice Doppler radar, and you see kind of that heavier band from Glendora back to Coffeyville, that tells me that there's some sleet in this, but there's also freezing rain in this as well, dripping off the edge. Now I will say this. I'm going to go back to that picture here again for a second. And again, you can join the conversation here behind the scenes. But one thing I do note on that picture, just on kind of the bottom corner of it, we kind of zoom this in here and go all the way down to the bottom. We're about as far down as we go. Okay, well, I'll step out of the way then. Oh, see, I messed it up. There we are. Get to the corner. Get in the corner. Okay. These are not long icicles. Length matters in this situation, because if it was pure freezing rain at the rates we're looking at, these would be long icicles. Instead, because they're shorter icicles, and this is so grainy, that tells me it's probably sleet that is coated in freezing rain. And so essentially you have partial sleet, right? It's not full sleet, it's not full freezing rain, it's kind of in between those two. It's a hybrid. So that's what we're, I think, looking at there with this potentially. I do want Caleb with some information that he put in our kind of group chat we have behind the scenes here. Caleb, if you're live, you can do it from inside there. You don't have to go outside. The information that you had about the arena, I'll bring our meteorologist Caleb Elderblut to kind of deliver some of that. Now, what were you saying here?
Yes, I saw the post from the city of Tupelo. They were saying that the Cadence Bank Arena in North Hall Certified American Red Cross shelter opened at 9 a.m. this morning as a warming shelter in expectation of the winter storm and the frigid temperatures expected for those without shelter and or power. They said the shelter is operated by ARC and will remain open until deemed no longer necessary. So this can go as long as people need it. There's no cutoff. It doesn't have to end by tonight or tomorrow night thing. This can go as long as people need the shelter. So for those that are around the Tupelo area that lose power and just are without shelter, that opened up at 9 a.m. earlier this morning and is free to all that need that to show up later on today. So just wanted to pass that along for those out in Lee County and up in that area.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's our meteorologist, Caleb Elderblut. Warming shelters will become important at some point here in the future, potentially. And Gabe, behind the scenes, that could be one of the other tabs we open up here in a second. The North Mississippi Storm Chasers have a list of warming shelters that they've put together. If and when the time comes, that's something that you need to potentially seek shelter from, because on the backside of this, we have a lot of cold air. Changing radar sites here down to the Jackson radar site. This is another heavy band behind this. If you have not seen something rough yet, it's still on the way. And this threat builds from here. Unfortunately, that is the angle and the direction that this whole event is going. So more sleet, more freezing rain, more is on the way. The questions do come around the Golden Triangle here as well. Gabe will also have those latest temperatures, looking at that here in a moment for us when we talk to him and we kind of analyze that. But I'm bringing it back here to the closest radar site for a moment. As we're looking in and around. The Golden Triangle has been extremely fortunate to this point to not have more impacts. We're going to check out our camera in West Point there. And in West Point, we have had a few reports of a little bit of icing, but we still have perfect visibility out of our camera. And we're sitting at 32, and we're waiting for that number to go up. We're hopeful that it will go up significantly, and there's a decent chance that it could going forward. But certainly watching things very, very closely there in the West Point area, in the Golden Triangle, because what happens there kind of starts to affect everybody else. Because then we start to get an idea of how it's going to play out for everybody. Because if that warm air can fully charge northward, that makes a huge difference on trying to get us into a safer situation. Because then at least we would go through a part of this event without things being worse. Thomas, in the Biggersville area, that would be up there in Alcorn County, sending in this shot here. I'm going to bring it back in and show you the shot there from Alcorn County, Thomas, again, with what are sleet-packed roads. And luckily, kind of look in both directions there along 45. I don't see any cars. So that means people are trying to be smart and safe about how they travel and what they do at this time. Okay, Gabe, if you've got those temperatures up in one tab, and you can always right-click on those and say open a new tab. Looks like you do have that up there. I'm going to bring Gabe in so we can talk about, again, a few of these impacts with the temperatures. Obviously, we're hoping for them to get boosted a little bit, but we know at the tail end of this it drops. And so you're talking both current temperatures, but then that also means you're looking farther down the road and talking about what is going to be significant cold, right?
Exactly. So cold weather warnings are in place for Monday and Tuesday specifically because of the significant drop that we're going to be experiencing, and the winds. It's going to be breezy, making it feel in the negatives in some parts here in North Mississippi. Looking at temperatures right now across the area, still getting some teens way up there in Northwest Mississippi. That's right at 17 for Tunica, 16 around South Haven. But as we work our way towards the south and east, you can see temperatures do gradually get warmer. Where I'm paying attention to is right there in the Golden Triangle area, specifically south of Highway 82 around Macon and Louisville. You do see this line that starts to form. And as you can see right here, I mean, we're talking southern Lowndes County and then dipping into Winston County and then carrying off there into the southern part of Winston County. Kosciuszko kind of on the cusp of freezing, but then all the way into the Delta, we're seeing below freezing temperatures. Why that matters? That's our freezing line. The freezing line that we've been talking about for what precipitation we will see here in North Mississippi. So folks in Macon, folks in Aliceville and Gordo and Pickens County, folks over there probably getting rainfall, getting all the way to the surface. But as we take a look at the rest of the area, at least getting some of that mix as it works its way to the surface because of where temperatures currently stand. It does matter what happens at the surface, also matters what happens aloft. And if you do have that warm nose, and that's why we're getting that sleet and that freezing rain mixture, you know, how deep that cold layer is at the surface does matter, because that means that's a deciding factor in regards to if it's freezing rain or sleet. So that's one to pay attention to. But these temperatures right now already cold, getting even colder into the start of next week. That's another danger that we need to talk about. And of course, Caleb was talking about warming shelters just a moment ago. I have behind the scenes pulled up real quick the warming centers that are actually on the North Mississippi Storm Chasers page. This is continually updated. So if you do need to know of a warming center close to your area, always check out their page. And they're a big help here with us on Mississippi Live, whether with the cameras, also with these warming shelters. We thank them a lot and hope they're staying safe in this event as well. But lots of tools at your fingertips as we go through this event. So there's no reason why we can't stay safe. You guys just need to make those preparations, and I hope that you have done so all week long to get that plan A in place. And if plan A falls through, then you have plan B, plan C, and plan D. We're all prepped out here in North Mississippi. But Matt, cold air dominating the forecast, going to continue to dominate it beyond this event. But this event not doing anyone any favors, giving us the icy conditions on those roads, making it hard to potentially get to those warming shelters, and then the lingering impacts that we'll see with it as well. It's just not a good setup whatsoever.
It isn't, but it's something that hopefully, I mean, for 5 days we've been doing it with megaphones, so hopefully people are prepared enough for this, and dear God, hopefully it's more sleet than anything else. Hey, would you make sure to repost that? I know we've shared it before, but just reshare that on Facebook so it's toward the top. And if you can get the link, drop it in the Facebook chat so that people have that information. That's the kind of information you want to know those in your area before the power goes out, just in case internet goes with it because of this. Appreciate that's our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor here, again, looking at the very latest on those warming centers here across North Mississippi. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here. Current time is 6:31 a.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. If you're just tuning in with us here in the Room to Room Weather Center, we've been talking about these threats all week long. We're largely tracking what's going on now, but we do forecast forward on this. But I want to kind of give you an assessment if you're just tuning in on where the situation stands. We have had accumulating sleet that has kind of looked like snowfall. That's why we're level 2 confidence on the snowfall accumulations near the Tennessee state line. But most of this graphic has remained unchanged for the last few days here. What Gabe was just mentioning, on the back end of the system, we expect sub-freezing temperatures for more than 2 days. And by sub-freezing, I mean possibly single digit and below zero temperatures up into Tennessee. And I think those single digits do come down into our area as well. Likely travel impacts for most locations already ongoing. The thunderstorm potential, I promised this a couple of times, and I think in this moment here, I'm going to look at that with our exclusive storm finder. It's something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live. It allows us to look at the lightning, the precipitation all at the same time, so we can figure out if thunder, snow, or something like that is on the way. But accumulating ice and sleet, causing power outages already in some spots. We expect those to be multiplied as we go forward into today, as travel continues to degrade, as ice continues to come. And if you have not seen the significant ice yet, don't worry. It is unfortunately on the way for you. Gabe talked about this a minute ago. Those ice storm warnings for the counties in purple, all involved here. And for many of us, the icing event doesn't reach its peak until tonight, and in some cases until tomorrow. I cannot think of a time where we've in the past, even 94 was not multi-day to this extent for at least locations around the Tupelo area. And so the length of time and the opportunity is significant. Maybe we're lucky enough the cold air gets thick enough that it's more sleet than freezing rain. That's all stuff we're worrying about. But slick roadways everywhere in the purple counties here. We've been forecasting these at same areas. And I'm going to show you the same graphic I've been showing for over 48 hours. And that is our peak threats graphic. And we changed the text at the top. That's the only thing we've changed. And I expect this to still be true. Our peak impacts in this orange zone here, and those impacts will include accumulating icefall and inability to travel and peak power outages, all possible for locations in the orange. If you're there, hopefully you're at your ending point. We do expect that we will continue to have this going on for the next day plus, unfortunately. When we look at icefall accumulations, and this is the HRRR model, it's one of a lot of different projections we can show. As you'll note from the most recent run, which started at 6 a.m. through the end of this event, and this shows Monday 11:30. I just took it through there. This event is done on Sunday. But the ice that it's on the ground, on trees, that will probably linger after that because of the cold air. But this most recent run, icefall accumulations, and this is primarily freezing rain, but does have a sleet component that figures in this here, more than an inch for a large section of North Mississippi. And for analysis on just how this stands on the how important is this and how big a deal is Matt making out of this? Is he blowing this out of proportions? I want to show you what's called the Winter Storm Severity Index. This is something that I don't make. This is National Weather Service offices, the government, and the way they're looking at this information. And what they are saying is if you look at the whole United States here, I'll go to the whole United States. This is a winter storm that stretches almost from coast to coast. And the bullseye of that, if you're saying what is the most extreme up at the top there? The most extreme, there are some spots there in North Georgia that have been added in, but largely it is over top of us here in North Mississippi. And when you look at the icing component to that, that is the reason why. Now, one thing I did notice here, and again, you can tell the difference between thinking from National Weather Service Memphis, National Weather Service Jackson. The Grenada County, that is Jackson's county, so is Webster County. They still think a little more highly on the high-end icing potential. than some folks farther north than the folks in Memphis do. What is that change and why is it there? I have not talked to them, but my guess, and I feel like it's a pretty decent guess here, is the sleet component, the depth of the cold air. Icing is worse when it's freezing rain because that's what then, adheres to everything and pulls down power lines and causes all the issues that go along with that. So perhaps the best case scenario of maybe a little bit more sleet could play out farther north where we have some of those highest icing totals. Again, I'm putting words in their mouth. I'm saying that if I were looking at a positive spin on this, that would be the positive spin I'm looking at. But looking at roadways like our meteorologist Maggie McCauley is doing, those roadways continue to, depending on where you're at, look a little bit treacherous out there. And again, it's not 100% bad there, but I mean, that's one of the, I think that would be more slick than maybe folks realize.
Yeah, definitely don't want to get out if you don't have to, because this is something you can't necessarily see when you're in the car, right? This is looking at roadway, Highway 336 west of Pontotoc, and you can see some ice, at least on the side of the roadways, maybe even a little on it as well if you kind of look closer there. But overall, some ice starting to set up on roads, making hazardous travel sitting west of Pontotoc, and that's really across North Mississippi right now, especially northwest Mississippi, creeping into northeast Mississippi. Here's another look, same area, same person sent this in as well, again, west of Pontotoc, and you can kind of see the ice accumulation on the vehicle here. And I would say a messy go, but a mix of things in terms of what ice we're looking at. You can kind of see the sleet accumulation and then that frozen precipitation on the windshield as well, indicating maybe some freezing ice as well, or some freezing rain. So overall, those are two pictures. One more look that I want to show you. This is over, I believe in Dorsey. Let me make sure. Yeah, in Itawamba County. Icicles frozen, you can see on the well house over in Dorsey. Again, this is over in Itawamba County. So ice starting to accumulate on all kinds of things. And that's why we discourage you from spending a lot of time outdoors if you don't have to. One, it's just miserable cold. Two, this is going to be weighing down on other surfaces like this roof and like trees as we go over the day ahead. I know there's a lot of folks that want to be out sledding, right? I've heard a lot about sleds over the past few days. And I didn't want to ruin anybody's dreams in terms of sledding, but we knew the snowfall accumulation wasn't going to be very high for some fun sledding out there. I know some of us are still getting out and doing that this morning, but overall, this is the main impact we're watching, and that's that ice accumulation that's going to be making for hazardous travel and even hazardous conditions as you're walking outside, because things are slick out there this morning. What are you seeing at your house, though? That's what we want to know. Make sure to keep sending us in pictures like this here on the Mississippi Live Weather app. You can also let us know. We're keeping an eye on this chat, what you're seeing outside. And I see somebody, thank you so much. Shout out to Tiffany, letting other people know how to submit our pictures. Go to the app, click the three lines on the top left of the screen, and then click submit your pictures. She is 100% correct out there. That is exactly how you go and submit your pictures. You got to have your email on there. You can put your name, where you're taking the picture at. It's really easy if you have our app on your phone.
Absolutely. It very much is. And we appreciate everyone for doing that. It's not just, hey, we want to show this on TV. It's the information you have. When you get significant reports, we can pass that along to the National Weather Service so they know exactly what is happening. And it helps them and us and everybody to adjust our forecasts as the confidence continues to increase. A significant sleet looks like primarily sleet. I'm going to change this back over on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, Mama Justice Doppler radar, here to this mode, the rainfall mode. Now, this is not rain, so ignore what this says at the top. I'm looking for the brighter areas, and so that is where I think some sleet, again, mixing with this in Grenada, that's moving toward Derma and Bruce, kind of this next heavier band you're in right now. Again, we're praying this stays primarily sleet as opposed to going to something else. And again, appreciate all the reports you're putting in the chat there. And of course, all the folks that are sending in pictures here behind the scenes, certainly helping us out. In Northwest Mississippi, it's kind of, I hate that phrase, winter wonderland, because, it implies something positive, and maybe it is. This coming in from Hernando. Appreciate this shot there of kind of a baseball field completely covered up. No one's doing practice today or tomorrow but probably a few days next week. It might be Wednesday next week before that's all gone up there. You can appreciate that one coming in from Taylor. This is ice on the roads and a pretty rough one. The College Hill area in the Oxford area. Let's go ahead and pull this one up. I need to double check the name on that again. This is Olivia. Olivia with this shot here of, again, a pretty good glaze there that does look like it's a bit of sleet as well as ice. So it's certainly not something you want to walk on. Even if you're very, very careful, it's really easy to fall. And even if you're able-bodied, it's very easy to fall as well. So just be smart. I agree with Mike Johnson. The only ice that they want is in their drink. I'm right alongside you there. Icing, this is a new picture coming in just in the last couple of moments. This is from the city of Grenada. We asked for Grenada, and you have delivered. We appreciate that. Looking at those power lines there, I'll zoom it in. Doesn't look like a lot on the power lines. As I scroll down on this picture, though, I do show a little bit off of that light. The reason it can be harder on some power lines is because of their size, the surface area that they have. That flat area helps that to have a little bit more icing. But a person who knows exactly kind of how all this works and hopefully can give us some guidance on what we're at. I know there's not a lot of issues yet, but his insight is invaluable, is Scott Hendricks. Scott Hendricks is the CEO of the Tom Bigby Electric Power Association. Scott, thank you so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live this morning. I know, trying to, in a mirrored state, get in the right spot there. This is obviously the kind of stuff you guys plan for and you're concerned about. How are things this morning? And, some general, let's just start with how are things this morning?
Matt, at this choice in life, I can be one of two things, an optimist or a pessimist. So I'm going to hope we get ice on the ground and not on the lines. From the picture you just showed, that's exactly right. You're going to have flat surfaces freezing. You're going to have slippery pavement. You're going to have slippery streets. You're going to have ice on cars, ice on windshields. Even if you leave your home with your windshield frost-free from your garage, if you didn't get it warm, you can freeze driving. It's very dangerous. The fear is it's a 4-degree, 5-degree swing. If we get warm enough atmospheric temperatures to drop water on a line that now will have been frozen for a few days and hasn't been over 40 in 3-4 days, that's concerning. We are all hands on standby. We've not brought crews in yet. We're watching what's west of us. We're watching the storm move in. I think 3 o'clock today will tell the tale from then on as to what we see on lines. If you look out your back door and you see accumulation on your shrubbery, that's going to be very similar to what we have on lines. If you see it on the limb of a tree and that begins to build up to 1/4 of an inch, that's what we'll have on lines. Round surfaces act very similarly. There is a small amount of heat in a electric line, just due to the science of electricity, but it was not enough to keep it from freezing. And the ice will work as an insulator. I've been describing it to people this week as the same effect as when you spin the ice cream freezer during the summer. The faster you spin it on the ice, the more you insulate it in the ice, the colder you get it. The more ice that builds up on the line, it acts as an insulator to itself, and that's very concerning. At this point, I don't know of any icing on lines. I've seen some reports up in South Haven, DeSoto County, of some poles broken, possibly due to ice. I don't know those details. I haven't called that manager. They have enough going on their own.
And I think that was one of the things that we talked about the other day, that there's 2 ways in which the power goes out in that situation: ice on lines and people hitting poles. And I think Maggie confirmed earlier that at least in one case, it was someone sliding in and hitting a pole. Yeah, she's giving me a thumbs up behind the scenes there. So that's thankfully not ice on lines yet in that situation. And this picture, relevant to you, this is in the Carolina community, so that's an area that you would cover. Again, yeah. I mean, but see, this would have been rain that would have hit the roof and then slanted down. So you're going to again have a large area to collect that water and before it then freezes. That you're going to see long icicles, and long icicles don't necessarily mean that you necessarily on those the radial icing, like we've talked about, those surfaces, small surfaces that it's bid that complete coating.
We're just hopeful. I mean, but the principle of the icicle is the same as what I'm talking about on the line. As the water freezes on itself, it makes more ice, and that's what will happen on the lines if it's falling as water. If it falls as sleet, it'll be slippery. We can't walk. People will wreck cars. They will hit poles. As the ground gets damp from any storm, including this one, as it seeps in, as it soaks in, tree roots will give. If there's the slightest breeze or a little bit of weight, so you get some ice in the canopy, even if it's not on the lines, you'll have some trees fall. We will have lines down. We will have people out of power tonight, and we will get to them as soon as we can. Just our hope is we're fighting what's on the ground and what's in the trees, and not additionally what's on the lines. Right now, it's hard to tell. I'm very hopeful. Watching your forecast and watching the temperatures, I hope when the real rain gets here throughout the night that the temperatures are very cold, and hopefully it falls as something snow, sleet, something solid that doesn't affect us. We have everybody on standby. Have not called them in yet. Point is, there's nothing for them to do. They would be expending their energy sitting in the warehouse, nervous, anxious, ready to get to work, eager even to get to work. And there's no point in that. We will have all management coming in at 12:30, and we will make calls basically on 10-minute increments after that as to what we do. If what I think is coming at 3 o'clock, we will have crews head this way at 2. The country roads are slippery. Major roads are somewhat passable. Lee County at this point, Itawamba County at this point, that will change. The country roads are slippery. Matt, I would just ask people, if you don't need to be out, stay home. Our guys have to be out in this. They're going to be working on the side of the road. They're going to be driving from A to B. And yeah, four-wheel drive truck gets you going great, but it doesn't stop you.
Yep.
Brakes don't work well on ice. So, sightseeing, we'll post pictures. I've asked my guys to send pictures. One, because it's very interesting, and two, everybody deserves to know what we're facing, what we're fighting, and what we see. We'll post them, and we'll show you. Don't go looking. If you need to go get warmth to a family member, please do. But if you don't have any reason to leave your house, stay home. And that will keep us safer. The generator tips, we've got them all over social media. So does every power company. You've
Well,
done some stories
and I
on
was
them.
going to ask you if you would be willing to give some brief generator tips here as well, because the safety of people at home is important, but generators improperly installed might make your life more comfortable, but could end somebody else's life, right?
Yes. So even the smallest generator, if installed improperly, can backfeed a line. And you will hear a lot of people say, cut the main off. That'll protect you. The main only cuts the primary feed. It doesn't cut the neutral feed. If your house is wired properly, you hope that doesn't backfeed. You really need an experienced electrician and a transfer switch to make sure that can't backfeed. Additionally, if you have three-phase service to your house or more likely a business that would have three-phase service, that's extremely dangerous. Flipping the main is not a same as the disconnect. It is helpful. You should always do it. I would hope most people have gotten advice of an expert and have wired properly, or using extension cords and going outside the system where it can't backfeed. I want them to use generators. I want them to be safe. I want them to be warm. But the slightest risk could hurt our guys. And I'll tell you. So we normally have, I think, 4 to 5 right-of-way crews. Yesterday we turned all of our fiber guys into 3 more right-of-way crews, because the first thing for an ice storm is clear the trees, clear the lines. You can't build them back if trees are on them. So we've got as many people. We bought saws, we bought pole saws, and when we were telling them yesterday, they got a very quick lesson in what to do in an ice storm. First thing you do when you get out of the truck, listen for generators. And I said, everybody there needs to say generator. They need to say it to each other. They need to hear it. They need to know it. We will isolate the lines from the houses as best we can. We will isolate the lines as we work on them, and we will ground the lines, which prevents somebody from getting harmed. But there is always a chance that something gets missed under a limb, under a tree. Please be safe. Be sure, be certain. If you don't know, call your electricians today. They'll talk to you. They'll tell you. They can tell you what to do and how to do it. We're all here together. This is one community. We all want to work together. I want you warm. I want the power on as much as you do. But I want my guys to come into work on these dangerous conditions and go home to their families tonight or in the morning.
Absolutely, and they're going to work as hard as they can to restore the power. That's Scott Hendricks with the Tom Bigby Electric Power Association. Thank you so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live with your great tips. Any final thoughts you want to add real quick?
No, right now I think that covers it. We're coming in the office as management at 12:30, and I don't intend upon going home as long as I've got men working. So if you need something more as this storm progresses, we'll be glad to get back on and do this again. We'll be here. We'll be at the command center, and we'll know what's going on. So I hope it's all about ice on the ground and cars bumping poles and nobody hurt. But we shall see. Thanks, Matt, for having us. Thanks for all you do to warn us, to protect us, and keep us informed. And we're going to do our best on all social media to do the same. If your power is out and it's on the outage map, we know. Don't call. On a normal storm that has 1,000 people out, we'll have 8,000 calls. I don't know who they are. They're the friends or the neighbors, or they call 8 times. I'm not sure. But if we have a major outage now, so you have 20,000 people.
Oop, we lost Scott.
Sorry about that. She's over in Oxford. So that's what we're facing. If you see a line, a pole, a transformer, something broken, something dangerous, do call. We want to know, and bear with us. We've got all hands on deck. We've got our phone system, thanks to Tom Bigby Fiber phone system, able to answer from their homes. So we're going to keep most of our CSRs at home and have a lot of people answering the phones. We have our call center on duty. We will answer thousands of calls. We will not answer enough. And people get frustrated. I understand. But if you're just calling to say that the power's off or when's it going to be back on, look to our social media, look to our outage map. We know it's off, and we're going to get it back on as soon as we can, and we will give regular updates. As long as I have communication, we're going to do our best to keep you informed and be transparent about where we are and what we're doing. We want to get through this as soon as we can, just like you. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Scott. Scott Hendricks with the Tom Bigby Electric Power Association. I will give you guys, some extra credit on this. We talked yesterday in our contingency planning. If worse came to worse, we could come to your facility and broadcast live from there if we lose power for days and all my backups go out. So I appreciate you offering that opportunity for us to do that and being such a good partner. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you and your people. And our prayers are with them that they make it home at the end of this in just as good a shape as they are now. We know you guys are doing your best. Thank you so much. Scott Hendricks with the Tom Bigby Electric Power Association joining us here on Mississippi Live this morning. It has been pretty consistent kind of sleet sort of mix out in the Pontotoc area. And as we've kind of looked at this camera from a few different angles, again, our partnership with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, again, looking down at the road itself, you can see, again, some white on the edges. I almost get more concerned when I'm looking at this and I don't see white on the roadways, because that means it's probably more freezing rain than it is sleet. So I'll take this a moment here to kind of zoom in down there closer to ground level, but it's certainly looking, there we go, kind of coming in there. And as it kind of zooms down, still a lot of blacktop showing up on that shot there. And so that means probably a little less sleet than some other locations. We do have team coverage, so I'm going to bring in both our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, and our Maggie McCauley. Again, we are spread out across North Mississippi in different locations. So if there's some kind of catastrophic power failure one place, we can continue to broadcast otherwise. And so Gabe, Maggie, the pictures coming in, and Gabe's in particular that catches my eye because of the sleet accumulation you have there. Someone doing it right with the ruler into it to give us an idea on how much. And how much did they see and where?
Well, Matt, this report, of course, it matters, but where it's actually happening from, and you see in the background right there, that's a windshield wiper, and so this is going to be on top of a vehicle. And so that's still accumulation total in regards to ice and sleet, and that is correct. That's 1.5 inches of both, which is, it's a lot.